Hey friends, welcome to the second Turf and Touchdowns podcast. Today focusing more on the turf side of things. We'll be returning to touchdowns next week alongside more turf. But we started off with a bit of a bang with the Kentucky Derby. We'll get into that in a moment. Myself, Luke Elder, alongside my very good friend, some would say best, Tom Collins. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm good. If you can't tell, I am about to just play 18 holes of golf. I don't normally dress in bright blue Adidas apparel, though if they would like to sponsor the podcast, that'd be phenomenal because I could do with a few more golf shirts. Otherwise, I'm very good, Luke. I mean, the fact that I know maybe if you're watching this from the US, you won't know this necessarily, but in the UK, we've had the worst of winters and springs, but it's sunny outside. We've got turf racing back. Everything is coming into place.
And we warm up for these podcasts in very different ways, myself and Tom. I was working for Sky Sports Racing last night, finished at about 10 o'clock off a 7-hour shift, got home, had pizza, had McDonald's on the way back as well. I wasn't meant to have pizza, but I went double-handed. My partner Jasmine forced me into it. Tom, how did you warm up for today's podcast?
I warmed up by waking up at 2:30 to the loudest carbon monoxide alarm you'll ever hear, getting people to come out to the house. Basically no sleep, in short, Luke. I don't want to bore everyone with the little bits and bobs, but yeah, it wasn't the ideal prep. Fortunately, I looked at the race we were about to cover last night, so it didn't really harm the actual preparation of preparing for the pod, but it is harming my appearance right now. My eyes look like I'm carrying about 4 bags under each one.
Yeah, that's just my normal. When children are involved, that's just what happens. So, but glad you're with me. Otherwise, it'd be a very boring podcast. And we're here to celebrate as well because last week in the Kentucky Derby, you famously said, "I'm going to bet 3 horses in this race," and then started off with Mystic Dan, who I still didn't think he was going to hang on in the closing stages, but in one of the most thrilling Kentucky Derby finishes of possibly all time, Mystic Dan did hold on. Well done.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to start with a bang, isn't it, with this podcast? We also put up the 4th, Catching Freedom, both of us. And obviously, if you played in the UK, you'd get first 4 places with majority of firms. So it was a good race for a punting perspective. It was a great race from a watching perspective. I know, obviously, I'm a little bit biased because I was cheering home the winner. But what a thrilling finish. 3 horses in a photo. You had the Japanese Raider, Forever Young. You had the favourite of the race, arguably, Sierra Leone down the outside, and you had the big long shot in Mystic Dan, all separated by this much. It was just a phenomenal Kentucky Derby and perfect for the 150th running.
It was, and there was a bit of controversy as well because I still don't really know what Tyler Gaffalione was doing. On the head-on, I had a friend send me the picture. I was like, that's not right. Whatever that is, that didn't happen. And then I saw the head-on, I was like, what on earth is Tyler Gaffalione doing? And honestly, I still have absolutely zero idea, but nothing changed because the Japanese connections decided not to try and object, which was a weird one because I thought they got it 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I completely agree with the objection and the steward side of things. I know that the Japanese connections came out and said that in Japan you can't really object and it's down to the stewards, so they wanted to abide by their own rules and not change the result via objection. I saw Chad Brown post an interview. Well, he didn't post it, but I saw an interview with Chad Brown posted on social media. And Chad said that Tyler was just trying to make a gap to then use his crop in the left hand. But, I mean, it doesn't work like that, Tyler. You can't just push a horse out of the way or a jockey. So, yeah, I don't know what happened. I think Forever Young arguably should have won the race, but he was so unlucky not to get second. He was bumped the whole way down the straight by Sierra Leone. And, there was only an inch in it at the line.
Let's play the game of use Chad Brown's excuse in other sports. So in football, soccer, in England, a player's on the ball, so I just pushed him over because I wanted the ball because he was on it. In cricket, the batsman was standing in front of the stumps, so pushed him over because I wanted to get to them easier.
Tell you what, you'd never get pass interference in the NFL, would you?
It's like, well, he was trying to catch it as well. So, what do you want me to do?
I was just making some room for myself to get the interception, guys. That was all.
Literally, it's like he was in my way. Like, what do you want from me? It's like one of the worst excuses I've ever heard in my entire life. But
terrible.
All the same, didn't really matter if you played the forecaster, the exactor with Sierra Leone and Mystic Dan. You're pretty happy. If you did it with Catching Freedom, you're probably not the happiest in the world. A few also Rans will call them. Fierceness, we text each other sort of during the race and we got to the first bend and like, this is over. Fierceness has won this. He's in the perfect position. They're not actually going that hard for a Kentucky Derby. And to be fair, he ran exactly as we said he was going to, that he'd go towards the 4, he'd bomb out. He looks a very much all or nothing horse at this moment.
Yeah, he really is. I mean, he's literally turn up and win in emphatic fashion or finish out the back of the TV. I think he finished 15th or somewhere around that in the Kentucky Derby. And if you paused it, as you said, after the first turn, you would be pretty confident he was the horse to beat. I mean, he got out lovely from the post position 16. He jumped well. He moved 3 wide onto the turn into the leading vanguard. And that is the position everyone was saying that Fierceness needed to be in. He avoided all the bumping early. There was no scrimmaging. They didn't go overly hard. Why didn't he perform? Now, with that in mind, you've got to be a bit wary of him next time, and actually just for the whole rest of his career, because unless he really develops into this hardy and proper horse that is down for a battle, he's going to be all or nothing, and every time he's going to be a short price.
Yeah, 100%. He is. There will be one race this year that he will be a massive bet. I don't know when it will be. I don't know what race it will be, but it will happen at some point, and we probably will talk about it on this this podcast. Let's get controversial for a moment.
Go on.
Because after the race, or day after, you text me saying something about Sierra Leone. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, if there's one horse I want out of the race, it is not Sierra Leone. Now, I saw all over social media everyone saying the Belmont is going to be perfect for this horse. Look, he's an out-and-out galloper. He's come from the back of the pack. He's gone round the field. There was bumping in the straight and he should have won. He was the best horse in the race. Rubbish. I'm not having any of that. This horse has loads of talent. There is no doubt about it. But the fact he's so sluggish in the early stages puts him on into a bad position, especially in a big field. Now, the worst thing about Sierra Leone, in my opinion, is the fact that he lugs left. And he's done it every single start. Usually, because of his closing style, he can come wide and doesn't impact the finish or impact any other rivals. But we saw in the Derby that he was so close to Forever Young, and the whole way up the straight, he was just leaning left. Now, the reason for that is not only because he was getting a bit tired, he's got a heart of a lion, so he was continuing to go forward, but he was tired, is that he paddles with his left fore. So as you can see, round the bend and in the straight, his left leg is going outwards. That causes him to lug. And going forward, I think that's going to have a real negative effect on Sierra Leone. It's going to take its toll with him. And if you look at other horses that have that characteristic of paddling with their left front leg, their careers tend to fall off a cliff a bit. So everyone's going to be supporting Sierra Leone in the Belmont, other stamina sapping races. I want no part of him, Luke. I'm going to be taking him on at every possible opportunity.
Yeah, the Belmont might be the race that suits him best, but it's also going to be run at Saratoga this year, which is fine. He's won there, but it's a very long straight. He did hang left, and it was against inferior rivals when he won at Saratoga. So we will see regarding Sierra Leone. I'm not as strong as Tom on that statement, but I also do get it. And also the Baffert Battalion are waiting at Pimlico. They'll be waiting at Belmont as well. Not Nisos. We'll be seeing him later on in the year, but Muth is currently a very short price favourite for the Preakness. I was going to say odds-on favourite, and he is. But one thing that I absolutely hate when listening to generally American podcasts about sports is when they say, it's the absolute odds-on favourite. It's like, right, it's like the Kansas City Chiefs are the odds-on favourite to win the Super Bowl right now. It's like they're not. If you're taking that price, that is the worst bet I've ever heard in my entire life. It seems to just be a phrase when really it does mean something. That's my main bugbear with podcasts and sports previews at this day and age.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I think he's around 10 to 11 right now. So technically he is an odds-on favourite, but this is an anti-post market. And the vibes from Mystic Dan's camp have been suggesting he may run in the Preakness. So that's yet to be confirmed. If he does run, Muth may not be an odds-on favourite. So yeah, I agree with you completely. He is the horse to beat, but he's not this guaranteed winner already. He's not like a 1 to 6 shot. He's 10 to 11, slightly odds-on. No good thing.
Yeah, 8 to 11 at the moment. He's shortened over in the UK, but he is actually odds on. The rest of the field aren't. But that's a look back at the Kentucky Derby. Just a reminder, thank you to everyone who did subscribe and follow us on our socials. We're on Twitter, at Turf Touchdowns. Every other social media platform, we're at Turf and Touchdowns. And also, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, the red button just below, unless they've moved it, just look for a red button. Then you'll be updated on every single podcast we put out. And also, just to revert back to the touchdown side of things, we had a couple of questions regarding what we're going to be doing going forward. There will be a listener league. That's very much part of our plans for fantasy football. So we'll be revealing a few more details regarding that further down the line, and we'll mention more of it on the touchdown side of things next week. But we've had a look at the Kentucky Derby. We need to look forward now to the Man of War, which is no longer a Grade 1 contest, albeit that doesn't really matter if you're looking at the European contingent, because it's good prize money and also it's races that generally are going to be a fair bit weaker than we're going to see over on these shores. It is the Europeans that head the market, with Nation's Pride 8-5 on the morning line, Silver Knots 3-1 on the morning line. Then you get a few of the US runners, like Curtes, albeit ex-French. They only had one run over in America at fives. Ahana Honor 6-1, Tawnyport 6-1 as well. But Charlie Appleby, I saw someone say that he's on a losing streak the other day in America, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. He was 0 from 4 last week, but he could easily have won 2 of those races. It's a very loose losing streak.
Well, yeah, I mean, Silver Knot, who we're going to talk about in a few moments in this race, that he won just a couple of weeks back in the US. So I don't think a losing streak is the right, terminology. However, he did have a horse beaten called Ottoman Fleet, who was sent off a very short price. So, it's not all plain sailing for Charlie. We're used to seeing him thrive and just dominate turf races over in the US in recent years. He's had a couple of mishaps recently. And actually, when we go back through the recent winners of this race, he's had a couple of mishaps in this race as well.
He has. I'm also interested to see how the horses actually take to America, because Charlie Appleby's been travelling them over from the UK in seasons gone by. Obviously, we know now quite a few of them are based over in the US. I think it's Alex Merriam, who'll be one of his assistants in the UK and Newmarket. He's sort of overlooking things. Obviously, a guy that's very, very good at his job, but it's how they take to things in America. And obviously, you've got horses that be split between Keeneland, as we've seen, Saratoga, and also further down in New York at Aqueduct. But for this contest, we're at Aqueduct. I feel a little bit uneasy regarding the Appleby pair, but we'll start with Nation's Pride. You go back to that Woodbine form 2 starts ago. He is absolutely the one to beat, for all that I still don't think that was the strongest of races. He beat Royal Champion, who I don't think we've seen since, but he's now trained down in Australia. He got a bare speed figure of 104. If he runs to 104 in this, he probably wins it.
Yeah, I completely agree. He's the horse to beat on the Canadian International form alone. As you say, it wasn't much of a race. There were 3 European runners in there, and they dominated proceedings as expected. Nation's Pride came out on top. The one positive for him, aside from the fact that he's a very classy animal, and actually, I don't know why I said the one positive, because I could list quite a few here, but the main positive for him when you're talking about Charlie Appleby runners is he's already done it in the US and in Canada. He won the Saratoga Derby back in 2022, won the Canadian International at Woodbine in 2023. So we know he's capable of performing that side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, 100%. That's a key thing regarding European runners. It seems that they're pinpointed to do that. This is a much, much tougher race, though.
Yeah.
Let's say Nation's Pride is sort of a 6-4 favourite, 13-8 favourite. I'd be going nowhere near him at that sort of price.
And the thing is, I don't actually think he's going to be that big, especially in UK. I don't know what price necessarily he'll be on the tote in the US, but in the UK, I think we may see a bit of 5-4, 11-10. Mm-hmm. He could even go odds on, depending on what the standpoint for the traders are. So I think he's going to be skinny enough. He's the horse to beat. He gets Frankie on board. He gets an outside post, which will help his stalking style. I just don't know, though. I think it was Bahrain where he last ran. Yeah. That is not the ideal prep. So he's definitely beatable, and we should say, I did hint about it earlier, but Charlie Appleby has had 2 very short prices beaten in this race in recent years. Warren Point was sent off 3-5 last year. Yabir was sent off, I think, 2-5 prior to that, and they both didn't even hit the frame, not even a place for either of those horses. So you have to treat this with caution. And actually, I think there's just better value in the race.
Yeah, I'm a little bit concerned now, because we've not discussed this race before. We've actually sort of gone into it. And we did this last week on Sky Sports Racing, and we ended up both liking the same 20-1 shot, who ran a massive race, finished second behind Overcharged in the sprint at Churchill Downs. But normally myself and Tom would discuss things, but we decided to go into this naked, if you will. Not quite actually naked, but yeah, you're welcome. I'm just going to come out with the one that I like. I think Curtes is a massive price/player in this. I feel like you're agreeing with me here.
I'm not agreeing, but I'm not disagreeing.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
Give me your case.
I look. We always say add a fair bit onto horses when they make their US debut coming over from Europe. And his European form was good. He ran against some not Group 1 out and out horses, but he was running against very solid Group 2 horses, which in the US, for me, translates to Group 1 horses the majority of the time. We've seen how well French horses take to American racing as well. Cortez did exactly that in the Pan American at Gulfstream on the US debut. He didn't win comfortably, but he's still a horse. Obviously, it's getting used to US style of racing. And I would say 99% of the time, French horses at Gulfstream probably aren't going to work because Gulfstream is a hotter climate. It's a faster track generally on turf. Take them to New York, where there's generally a bit of moisture around even on a nice day. The turf is a much, much nicer covering as well. Gulfstream's turf track is awful. It
Yeah,
works, but it's awful.
it's spray
Aqueduct,
painted dirt, isn't it?
it's basically spray painted turf. Aqueduct, though, works. It's going to be a nice place for him to run. It's a more galloping track. I think it's going to suit Cortez quite literally down to the ground. And Christophe Clement as well. Even his US horses will say they want one run and then they'll be much better. It applies to Cortez. I know it's a horse that we've seen plenty of in the past, but it 100% applies to Cortez. So he's morning line 5-1. I think he's going to be a little bit bigger in the UK, just because normally US horses, which he now is, they're disrespected a touch. Joel Rosario's taking the ride. Don't quote me on this, but I think that's a nice jockey booking. He's been riding absolutely phenomenally at the moment. But as we know with Joel Rosario, that can turn very quickly. But I think Cortez is a massive, massive player in this.
We're going to get someone from the socials team to clip up that Joe Rosario statement when he gives him an
Just
absolute howler.
play it out every single time he rides a howler or he rides a winner. So Luke was wrong again.
Yeah, it's going to be the most used video, I think, on our socials. Look, I don't disagree with you. I have to say, I did put up Cortez when he made his US debut at Gulfstream, and he won. And that was a much weaker field. Completely agree with you about the fact he's definitely going to improve from that. Agree that the turf track at Aqueduct will suit him a lot better. I have no negatives about him, to be honest. The only reason I've decided not to go for him is a price play. Now, 5-1. I reckon you might get 6 or 7-1 about Cortez in the UK on opening show anyway, just because Nation's Pride will be relatively short. I'm going to take a shot on Greek Order at 15.
No,
Yes.
really?
Yes, Greek Order. Now, what? Tell me why this horse is 15-1 on the morning line. That's my reason. It's a value play. Now, he was considered very, very strong in the UK when he used to race over here for the Charltons and Jobmont. You know, he ran in a Britannia at Royal Ascot. We sent off 2-1 favourite. When do you ever see that? Never. That suggests he's a group horse in handicap company. Yeah, he did taste defeat that day, but he finished a very good second. Now, we didn't see the best of him at Keeneland. You have to forgive that run. But I just didn't think everything went well for him. You know, he hopped at the start. He was bumped briefly. He raced way far back in a race that was dominated by forwardly placed horses. He was hampered down the back straight. He was 5 wide into the home turn. I mean, just a lot went wrong for him. He was beaten a considerable distance, so you do have to think, well, maybe he wasn't at his best there anyway. However, we've already talked about this, but European shippers over to the US, after their first start, they tend to take a big leap forward. I think with Belmont's brilliance as his trainer, he could take a step forward and grab at least a place. This horse has an electric turn of foot. Yeah, he's not as good as Nation's Pride on UK showing, but he's not far off. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabbed a place at the very least at a big price.
Okay, I get that. I get the place angle. I don't think he'll win. The thing I do like is that Bill Mott's bringing him here.
Yeah, exactly.
Bill Mott would be more of a slowly approach trainer. He would just nurse horses through things. We saw it with Just FYI in the Kentucky Oaks. If she wasn't ready to run, he doesn't care. She'll run somewhere else and she'll go to a different spot. Greek Order, I'm a little bit wary about the trip with Greek Order. I'm not sure mile 3 is really going to suit him. However, a mile 3 in the US is a lot different than a mile 3 in the UK. It will also help out his annoying habit of coming out of the stalls slowly. He developed that in England. I was really hoping he'd get rid of that in the US. He didn't first time out. And yes, he got a horrible trip, and yes, things didn't go right. To an extent, it was self-inflicted because he put himself in that position.
Correct.
But, as we say, that was over shorter. That was over the mile. He might just get a bit more time to settle into his race in this spot. I don't know. I feel like he's one of the horses that you're hoping for a place rather than I think this horse is going to win.
Yeah, I think so, but it's very much down to price, as I say. Like, if you're giving me 15 to 1, obviously that's not a price you would get in the UK, but if you're giving me anything around that, then I'm going to have a bit on. Because this horse has infinite amount of talent, he didn't show it first up, and many people are just writing him off. And we're going to see this with the likes of, well, I think City of Troy in the UK. People just write off horses after one bad run, but if they've proven their quality before that, you can't completely get rid of them. I mean, you don't just lose your ability. So I think Greek Order is very capable of going close. Two positives for him that I haven't yet mentioned. One negative. The negative is Jose Lescano's on board. Obviously, I prefer Irad, but Irad's decided not to ride him. So, it is what it is. Jose is still a good rider, better on dirt than turf. Positives. Belmont sent him straight to Belmont. He's had 2 works there. He worked very nicely last time in 49 and change over 4 furlongs. So I don't know. I think he's really coming to hand for Bill. And also, there should be contested pace. Now, I know this is a New York turf race over a long distance, and what tends to happen is they crawl up front. But So High is a front runner in here. Rocket and Roll should go forward. Silver Knot has got tactical speed and will surely try to at least be on the shoulder like he did at Keeneland. So there should be some kind of early, and that will help him. That will bring into play the closers, Cortez, Greek Order. Hopefully, at least one of us can rack up another big price winner because we've done well with that strategy so far.
Yeah, my thought with Greek Order, I think he'll win something at Saratoga.
I hope
That's
so.
my thought that he'll win something at Saratoga. Don't ask me what because I've not a clue, but he'll do something good at Saratoga. I could see him running okay in this, but I'm not fully ready to commit to US Greek Order. However, US bookmakers, if you're watching, I'm telling you, you've got no chance. If you want to go 16 to 1, that's fine. That is absolutely okay regarding Greek Order because he should be about 7, 8 to 1 in
Agreed.
this field. That US morning line is wrong. But if you guys want to go 16 to 1, that's fine. You've got a job to do. It's okay. So yeah, that's a look at Greek Order. Anything else you wanted to mention quickly before moving on?
No, I'm happy with what we've said so far. I think it's a very good race. It's a race to take a shot on a couple. We wouldn't be surprised if Charlie Happy had the winner, but Nation's Pride's going to be short enough.
Yeah, we kind of expect it in a way, but from a betting point of view, which is what we're trying to put out here, the price is probably not. And Silver Knot, he was flattered last time around,
Yeah.
but we know what Silver Knot is. He could go and do the same again, but there's a lot more pace in here. Quick mention for Gulfstream at the weekend. Why are you mentioning Gulfstream Park, do you mention? Because they are running their 2 Royal Palm contests for the 2-year-olds, which last year was a new initiative. You win the race, you're in at Royal Ascot, you get shipped over, you get everything paid for, and George Weaver did pretty well out of it last year. He had Crimson Advocate, he had No Name Mets as well. Both of them went to Royal Ascot. One of them did a fair bit better than the other in Crimson Advocate managing to win. But this year, I think a few more trainers are having a go at it. You've got Mark Cassey, you've got Wesley Ward, obviously George Weaver's in there, you've got Rusty Arnold, trainers that are synonymous with having Royal Ascot runners. So, new initiative, it is being supported. We're not going to do sort of a full preview on the races, but in either one of them, we've got race 8 and race 10, who might well be Royal Ascot bound.
Yeah, very interesting initiative, as you say. Mark Cassie's runners are especially interesting for me because he sent over Tepin back in the day to win the Queen Anne. So this is a guy who really knows what he's doing with Royal Ascot horses. Wes Ward's got a couple of runners, probably the favourite in both races, I imagine. Perfect chances in the fillies race and also Raise the Bar in the Colts. Raise the Bar is such a huge horse and he's Texas bred, so he doesn't really come across as a typical Royal Ascot type, but we'll see. Perfect chances by chance a lot. Who knows? There is turf on the downside. Could come across. I'd just be looking out for George Weaver again. I don't see why we should change strategy based on last year. Crimson Advocate did the job for him, came over and won the Queen Mary. He tends to run his nice 2-year-olds here. And actually, Dew Sweepers LLC, the owners of quite a few of the runners in these 2 races on Saturday, they came about, I think, in 2021 with the sole aim to buy Royal Ascot horses, prep them in the US, run at Royal Ascot. They have a couple of runners in these races. So look out for Bumratty Manor in the fillies event, 12 to 1 on the morning line, drawn nicely with a good turf pedigree. And in the Colts, Bright Skittle ran very well at Keeneland. Didn't show early speed, but made a huge run into the race. And actually, that was a pretty strong maiden. So I'd be interested in him. He's 6 to 1 on the morning line. If you're in the UK, you're not going to get that. I think you're more likely to get 9 to 2, maybe even 7 to 2. He'd be my strongest fancy of the 2 races.
Yeah, my thoughts were revolving around the Mark Cassey runners for potential Royal Ascot runners. My concern is that he's not got the leading jockeys on board. He's got
No.
in the second of the two races, Miguel Vazquez, who's a good rider, one of the leading ones at Gulfstream. He's also got, I think, Sonny Leone's riding one. That's not going to Royal Ascot. And you've got Classy War as well, who is the mount of Jose Morelos, which again, if there was a Mark Cassey runner who was genuinely fancied with respect to those riders, there would be a much, much bigger name. And I think Amisel Jaramillo is on one of the first ones as well. But we'll learn much more about that. We'll be talking more about whoever wins either of the two races in due course as well. But that's a look at the Royal Palm. That'll be live on Sky Sports Racing as well over in the UK on Saturday. Now, are you on Sky on Saturday?
I am indeed, yeah. I'm on from, let me get this right, 5:30 until 11. So quite a long stint, but we'll be covering virtually everything. I mean, I've done form for Monmouth, Belmont of the Big A, Santa Anita, Pimlico, Churchill. I mean, everything. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm on in the morning, so our paths won't cross. But I'll leave a note or something for you in the studio, something cute like that. But I'm on from, I think, 9 till 1 or something, so I'll be tucked up in bed quite early before a child's birthday party on Sunday. That child being my one.
Superb.
Yeah, we've got to go all out, so that's good. Thank you for being with me today, Tom. Anything you want to say before we go?
No, I really enjoyed the podcast. Hopefully everyone at home has enjoyed it as well. I mean, this is still obviously very new, Turf and Touchdowns pod. This is just our second one. So please do subscribe if you are enjoying this and watching on YouTube. Like down below and whack a comment as well who you like in any of these races or just any US racing thoughts, really, whether it be Kentucky Derby review or who you like in the Man of War. We're interested to hear. We'll probably answer them next week if it's questions or talk about it if it's statements.
Yeah, and also what I would like is Tom's about to go play golf. Leave your comment down below. Leave it on Twitter. What do you reckon Tom's going to go round in? I will go. This is your 9th round of the year?
Yeah, something about that, yeah.
I'm gonna back you a little bit here.
Come on, here we go.
I'm gonna go 120. No, I'm gonna go 92. I reckon you can go around in 92.
I like that. Okay, so for a little bit of context, we don't want to drag this on, but I'm not very good. Anything sub 100 is a decent round. Anything slightly above isn't. So 92 is the best I've ever shot. By the way,
no, right? Can I change?
You can. I mean, it's lovely conditions out
there. 95. We'll go 95.
That's what I aim for, around 95 to 98. So hopefully, fingers crossed. I'll let you know next week. If I've got a glum look on my face, it won't be because the carbon monoxide alarm has gone off again. It'll be because I've shot a terrible round of 18 holes.
And if he's not here, it's because the monitor was broken, and I'm not. That's too dark, right? Thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for supporting us after the first podcast. We hope you appreciated the second as well. I think next week we might have 2 podcasts out with the NFL one and also the US horse racing one, which is something good to look forward to. But follow us on all our socials, on Twitter at Turf Touchdowns, everywhere else at Turf and Touchdowns. Leave a like, comment, and also subscribe to this page. You'll be told about absolutely everything we're doing in the near future. But until now, we'll see you next week. Stay safe. Look after other. Goodbye.